Hey guys, it's Enwa and welcome to the 6th episode of the Batman Forever project. And in our last video, we finally finished off the full exterior building. So we added in our roof, our heightened parts of the walls, our chimneys, and additional windows peeking through at the top. And on top of that, we also figured out a floor plan and added in 4 extra rooms so we can add more family members over time. Now, one thing to add is I've added in the ceiling from the last time that you saw me, and I've also made some of these rooms a lot smaller. A very big chunk has now been squashed down. That's mainly because I wanted to maintain a good height and not use so many stairs to connect it. I know, of course, it's an attic, so of course it's going to be a lot more cramped and small, but at the same time, I wanted to still maintain this nice height going across. So, I'm just going to go through each room, show you the ceilings and all that jazz. Of course, you can see how cramped it would be if this was absolutely everywhere. And of course, we don't need that much space for our corridors, except for this area. I love this part. And then we also have the staircase, which I've just used upside down stairs. And over time, I'll add some trapdoors to act like a banister. And there we are. So of course, everything's a lot smaller, like I said. And I've pushed in this corridor a little bit more and changed some doorways and whatnot. So that is just kind of a clear idea of what I've done. And now that is pretty much all the floor plans, ceilings, absolutely everything sorted. And through these doors, we have nothing. Just a bunch of horses and pigs and sheep. And that's pretty much it. So that means we got to channel our inner poison ivy and plan out and research on how to do a manor back garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little layout that I've done on a creative flat world, and we are going to talk about it and go through each little part, talk about the inspirations, the on-site locations that were filmed, and that's pretty much it, and anything else added on top of that. So I'll see you guys in just a welcome to a creative flat world, and let's start off talking about the shots that we've gotten so far that showcase either the garden or the exterior. So we have one wide shot in Batman Forever, which showcases the Wayne Manor being right next to a cliffside, which is where the Batwing comes through from like a little sewage drain. And we've also got a gazebo built up on one side, and that's pretty much it. I don't think there was much thought that went into it. However, in Batman and Robin, we've got another shot of a kind of a pathway and a little lake kind of like pool thing, which is where Barbara Wilson talks to Bruce, Dick, and Alfred, and that is pretty much it that we've gotten. So I wanted to have a look and see if this garden that they filmed on was either a set or an on-site location, and that was in fact that. So this was the Greystone Mansion and Gardens in Beverly Hills. So of course, I googled it, had a look on what kind of site there is, where exactly they filmed it and what angle it was, and it is a very small, tiny little section out of the entire garden. So there is a much bigger area which can be used as inspiration. So that is exactly what I've done. Now, on top of that, we are also missing another crucial part of this Wayne Manor, which is the garage. The garage has been seen so many different times in both films, where we've got bikes, we've got cars, and that's pretty much it that we see. And of course, that is kind of connected to the garden as well. So what we'll also be doing is creating a little building on the side and maybe room for potentially a greenhouse, because I really like greenhouses. um, and seeing how that all fits together. So I'm just going to show you the first draft of this layout I've put, and I'm going to walk through every single little piece. So as you can see, we've got this massive little place going around, and let's talk about each section. So going forth at the front, we have our line wall sections, and this is purely edges. So I would love to add some more flower beds, and that's one main thing I've always wanted to pick up on any kind of grand housing slash manor garden, you name it, is that there's loads of different flower beds, loads of different colours, always dotted around. So that is definitely something I wanted to add, and of course, so this will literally be hedging with probably flowers or grass inside, and of course different hill parts inspired by the Greystone garden. Now, one of that part that I wanted to use was the fact that this has like an elevated part which goes up some stairs to a nice little patio area with a massive garden in the middle and potentially a fountain at the very end, which of course, due to the sizing and dimensions, we cannot add a fountain. We can add something very similar though. So we have that going across. Now, this is when I split it up into two, so it's very symmetrical at the front, and then we go off to either side. So I'm going to talk about the part that I'm more kind of concrete about. So down here is the section that was filmed in Batman and Robin. So it is very much more condensed. So we have this little pond going all the way across. We have a very small pathway going all the way around. And then there was this kind of like stone-like structure at the very end, which of course could have some sort of historical meaning to. We don't really kind of know. But this, I wanted it to have a little bit of hidden away with all of this dark green wool symbolizing trees. So I know that there wasn't any trees in the wide shot, but in the close shot in Batman and Robin, we did have trees. So I'm kind of wanting to use trees for this build and really add in a lot of greenery in this area. So that's our little section here. Then as we go down, we have got what will be our garage. So I've made it a lot bigger and enough sizing that we can add a few little cars added in, maybe some motorbikes too, and having our exit come out this way, which will then tie in with this exterior door, which is one thing I completely forgot about, that we have two extra doors on either side of the building which lead to nowhere. So we need to connect put all of that together. Then on our left side, we've got a few different little bits and bobs. So you can see there's a structure here, which is what I would like to leave for a little greenhouse. I know it's not needed, but I think it would be really cute to have a little greenhouse in the side. It's very, very small and narrow, and I think it'll be really nice to just kind of break up the space a little bit more. So as you can see, we've got a lot of greens, and yeah, it needs a little bit of something. So over here, I wanted to add, this might change, which of course all of this could, have another pond going all the way across, filling up some bed space. Then we also have this little section with our gazebo. So I've overlapped it over the top, so of course it's going to go down and look very similar to what it looks like in the photos. We have a grey section over here, which is what I would like to have as like a social part of the garden. So of course all of this is a social part, but this is where I'd probably want to have maybe a canopy area, seating, maybe like a barbecue or something like that. It's still very closed off, so you have your privacy, but it's still open to the rest of the little garden. Then, of course, I've added in a bunch of section parts. This was very much a kind of, I don't know what's going on, so this might even just be cut across and pushed down. But then I wanted to, again, add in a connection to the other door, which as of right now, is a bit of a hit or miss. So this is kind of how I outline all of my gardens. I did that in my previous build too, and it's more or less kind of experimenting on whether this will work or not in the proper build. So what I'll be doing now is actually outlining this all in game, and of course I need to take into consideration that this section here will be stairs, so it will probably go up by 1 block, nothing too major. And of course this section over here probably be a much more gradual up like staircase going on either side, so you have the option to go wherever way you want. Okay, so it was a bit of a struggle, mainly due to how I was lacking a lot of netherrack and wool. But I've kind of done a baseline of what you saw in the previous section. So I've also tried to do some stair designs, and I've kind of decided that it's going to be 2 blocks high rather than 1, because I felt like I couldn't really make it a gradual flow going up with just 2 blocks of slabs. So I used 4 instead, and I think it looks a little bit nicer, and it gives a little bit more height to the garden as well. I think start off at the bottom and then go on up. So what I've also done is in this section, I've just started to add in some dirt across this little section. So I don't want it to be exactly the same on either side, because you can't completely make the land rock solid in one certain way and it just wouldn't look right. So again, a lot of this is going to be time-lapsey stuff because it's so hard to describe it as I go along. But all of this will now be 2 blocks high going across. So although I have lined everything out, I'm probably going to have to redo it as, you know, the terrain goes up. But I'll crack on with that, hopefully get some more dirt because I don't think this is going to be enough. And then I'll show you what I've kind of got going on. But to know, I've got this little section over here, which is for the greenhouse, and I've been trying to do a greenhouse design for so long. I'm gonna give up with it for now. So this is no longer my focus. So I want to put most of my focus in this middle section and then on the right side, because this is fully concrete. So we have that section from Batman and Robin, and then we also have the garage, which of course will be very easy to make because what I'm going to do is it's going to be exactly the same dimensions, like design pattern wise, as the main building. And then I'll try and see what I can do with the roof. I'm probably going to make it a little bit unique just for, you know, make it a little bit different. Maybe add some like sections that kind of pop out a little bit more, much like these windows here, but fully roof wise. But of course I'll show you when that's done. But without that being said, let's crack on with this garden now, and I'll show you what I've managed to get through in just a second. Okay, so I may have gotten a little bit carried away, but I did stream all of this on Twitch, so I will put the VOD in the description if you want to just see like an hour and a bit me yapping and trying to figure out what to do. So I've just done our pathways. I've made a little bit of a change for this section here, and I've decided to put the stairs on this flat straight part here, and that is pretty much where I got to. So I've just put down some stone slabs for now and some stone bricks just to border it as well. But that is literally where I've gotten up to, and I've just started to do a little bit of terraforming and just plotting out where things are going to go and whatnot, and that is pretty much it. So what I've done here with these massive like sections of grass, I want to fill them up with a bunch of flowers. So with this front part, I wanted to use some rose bushes and some lilacs and basically just go, you know, each one, I don't know what the exact word is, but having them filled out like that makes it feel so much more taller when there's this transition to going up by 2 blocks, which I don't think it would have actually conveyed properly if it was with normal 1 block flowers, if that makes sense. So just popping that all the way across. And I will be collecting some more flowers for the rest of these sections here. And as of right now, I've just left all of this as just normal stone bricks, so I will eventually turn them into some stairs. But what I'm going to keep on doing is building up this grass section, terraforming, so all the way across. And then I'll also start cracking on with this garage, because I've just kind of left it. I was going to do it, and then I got distracted. It seems to be like a really repetitive thing at this point. We're getting so distracted by things. But yeah, and I'm still thinking whether to add a little bit of a little fountain type thing. I don't really know. But of course, adding more flowers around there. And then this can also be flowers too, so I can just fully remove this part. And there we go. So that's my little check-in. Yeah, I apologize for not time-lapsing it, but it took a long time to be satisfied with what I'm doing. So if I have any moments where I'm going to time-lapse it, I will definitely do that and show you in just that second. So here is a little update. So you may have seen in the time lapses that we have finally built a greenhouse, and we also did a little bit of monument building at the back. But let me quickly go through everything that I've done so far, because a lot of it has just been trying to piece things together, make it flow nicely and whatnot. So starting off with our greenhouse, I pretty much copied the same design as my last greenhouse because it works, and I've pushed it all the way at the back because down here it'll be covered with trees, and yeah, I think it was just suitable to even do that. So we've got a nice little door going through, nice big space, and then another door at the back, whether this would be like a little observational point or something like that, much like the gazebo that would be built at the back. And of course, it will go around maybe with some foliage around on the other side. Then opposite it, I really wanted to add a fountain. Okay, ever since I've not been able to make one, I definitely wanted to take this opportunity to make one this time. So we have some nice bushes going all the way around, filled up with a bunch of flowers, which was one thing that just drove me mad. Flower picking. How can anyone enjoy it? Because oh my goodness, did it take forever. Going to different types of biomes, trying to look for like a tulip flower forest, going to a bloody swamp to find some blue orchids. It was just a lot. But I managed to find a good decent amount, and then I also found out you can bow mill 2 block tall flowers to get more, which is really handy. So I've tried to match it all nicely and make it look a little bit colourful. And of course I'll add in a fountain later on. Then another part is I added in another pathway going all the way across. I thought it would make sense. But not only do you have to go all the way around just to go on the other side, let's just cut straight through. And over here, you may have guessed, this is our garage. Now, I did have a time lapse of this, and I was so unsatisfied with how it looked. So I completely changed it, and I'm really satisfied with how it looks now. So as we go down here, let me remove these little blocks, and this is what the interior looks like. So I've tried my best to make the interior walls look very similar to the actual garage itself. And I really wanted to add a little bit of height to the building, as you may see over here. So what I've done is I've added in some outdoor stairs that go up to a second floor. Now this floor could either be an additional apartment kind of thing, or it could be a place just to add all of this big engine type of storage bits, something of the sort. But I really wanted to have a little bit of height going up, and it makes it look nicer when you're coming down the driveway. So as we go around here, you can also see I've done a little side mission, and I've gotten myself some sniffers because there are new plants, and I honestly I didn't even know. So I went and searched for some ocean like ruins, I think that's what they're called, and got a brush and went away, and it was actually really annoying, but I was so lucky into getting 2 sniffer eggs pretty quickly in between 2 ruins. So that did save a lot of time, and these guys need names, so I'm more than happy to take suggestions for these little guys. They are very weird, but they're there. I have put them on this side because they kept on running off up to like the hills. So they are kind of like limited to the water now, so they can stay there. But either way, let me show you this garage. As you can see, it looks so much better, and I've got some doors fanning out. And I might change this window to another door which is closed, but I think we don't really need it, to be honest. I think it'll be fine like this. And obviously this road will go all the way down and eventually connecting to the other side. Now we've got more foliage all the way across, all these different types of plants. And one plant I really need to get more of is the lily of the valley. It's one of my favorite flowers, but they're just they're playing hide and seek with me because that's all I had. But other than that, we've got this little section here, which is of course from Batman and Robin. So we've got this little wall section over here, which I'm thinking it could be like a monument family, whether or not we add some like plaques of like respect to Martha and Thomas Wayne or something like that. But we do have this little pond that needs to be built up. So I have gotten a few blocks which could be used for the interior part. So I realized Tough had more block varieties. So I definitely want to add this chiseled Tough block and normal slabs as well, because it's quite a shallow pond, so I don't want it to be completely 2 blocks deep. So I want to add a what's it called? A little perimeter, and then pop in some Tough blocks and then fill it up with water. And I've also, when I was on my quest to get some blue orchids, I got a few lily pads. So I feel like this one is probably not as upkeep as the other ones, maybe. So I'm thinking this section, in the actual garden itself, it is just a full green like lawn thing. But I kind of want it to have a nice clean pond instead, whereas this one's a little bit more unkept and kind of out the way, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on this. I've also built this little kind of wheelbarrow, mainly because I had literally a 2 block gap here. I didn't know what to do with it, so I thought wheelbarrow. There you go. It might change, but at the time being, it's there. So that is pretty much what I've been doing. Of course, doing some little moss growing as well in the meantime, which is awfully painful to do. It makes me realize how much gardening does really, make you think. But I hope that kind of makes sense. I'm going to continue to crack on with this because it's been taking so long. I think the last time I filmed was maybe a day or two ago. So I'm going to continue to crack on. And I do have plans for this section here. Of course, it's going to be a more communal area. So maybe having like an outdoor dining section. And of course, our gazebo, which will also be inspired by the one that I built in the Arkham series. So, that being said, I'm going to continue cracking on with this stuff. Right, so you saw a little bit of a sneak peek of making the fountain and some tree designs as well. And not just that, we have also pretty much copied and pasted the other gazebo from the other build, and I've just changed some of the blocks to match the main building. So let's talk about this fountain. I mean, there's not much to talk about really, but I've made sure that there's like a nice little tier going up, and I've used some lodestones as well, popping them in there, acting like another chute for water coming out. And then I've topped it all off with a wall, a piece of grey glass, and a candle, which I think a light grey candle would probably be better. And that is pretty much it. I've also just added some dead coral in there just to give it a little bit more pizzazz, but to be honest, you don't really see it. So, going on, again, like I said, added in the gazebo. It's literally exactly the same. I just added in some stairs at the top there, and I think it looks so cute, and it is a lot smaller than the one I originally planned out, but this one is so much better because I tried to do one that was a bit more good looking, I guess, but it just got way too weird looking to the point I was like, nope, we ain't doing that. So this is so much better. And then we have got some trees, and I tried one version of tree. I wasn't really keen on it, and then I tried and did like one of my usual custom trees that I do, and I think this one looks a little bit better. I have used azalea bushes because they are so much easier to get. So with all of this bone mealing the moss, obviously these little bushes come around. So I just went and bone mealed them all on this little thorn and grabbed all of those leaves and all those oak blocks. So I've got my oak logs and some spruce, stairs and slabs dotted around. And yeah, I think they look alright. I might add a few trees that have some flowers in, but I just wanted to show you what it looked like, and I did want to have trees that kind of act like a wall, pretty much. So the other tree design that I tried was very unified in shape, of course, but there were such massive gaps going all the way across, and I kind of want that sense of privacy for each of these sections with walls. with trees even. So once that goes all the way around, it should look a little bit more cozier. Now, another thing I must add was when I was on my way to a mangrove biome to try and get those leaves, which is impossible because I forgot shears. So that was the whole point of the thing. So I had to go back home and then get some more shears. I bumped into this, which is a firefly bush, I think, and this, a bush. Where did they come from? So I've added those in around this little pond here, and when it's nighttime, there's like a bunch of particles that come around, and I think it's gorgeous. And I'm in love. So they are really, really nice to have. And what is so nice as well is with these bush and firefly bush blocks, is when you bone meal them next to, let's say, some grass, they will duplicate and grow around the entire area rather than it just being unable to obtain. And you have to find them, just much like flowers. But look how gorgeous that looks. It's so pretty. So I am definitely going to try and pop one or two around the rest of the garden if I can. But right now this is the most fitting place. But on with that, I know we're getting very near to the end of the episode because I've been doing so much work. And I'm kind of done playing Minecraft for like for a while. Because I'm not burnt out, but it's a lot. But I want to talk about this cliffside. So we've got our water going out, and what I'll be doing probably in between episodes is adding in a bunch of cobblestone and tough blocks to really emphasize this cliffside. Because as of right now, it looks a little bit messy. So I kind of want to change that a little bit. And also add some bushes as well, having this a little bit unkept rather than it being really unified all the way around. But that is pretty much it. And the last few things I do need to do is just obviously a few little bits of detail, adding in this road and the sidewalks, paths. And of course, making sure that everywhere is lit up and then eventually covered up with some moss. So I know this was going to be a pond at first, but I've fallen in love with that one. So I'm just going to keep it like this and have moss carpets going all the way across. I think it looks nice anyways. And then in this part here, I'm going to be doing a bit of a bigger tree going all the way up and then splitting up into two, which I think will be quite nice. So I'm probably going to do a time lapse of that. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to continue filling out some of these trees and then obviously doing this one as well. And then I'll come back and we'll talk about what is next for the next episode. It took a while, but I finished making this big tree, and I still need to kind of reevaluate it at the moment. 'Cause I'm liking it, but I'm not liking it. But as of right now, I'm going to keep it as it is, and whenever I want to redo it, then I will. So I've got a little tray here, so I've decided to change it to trapdoors. And what I am going to do is, I do think it's quite excessive. I am going to remove all of the stone brick because I've used it everywhere as like a outline, so to speak. And you know what? It's probably just easier for me to just change it all to stone and assign gravel. And And then there we go, because it is kind of bugging me like this, but I might just keep this little section here just to kind of make this place a little bit more closed in, and probably add in like a bench or something like that. I'm not really sure, but I love how this is kind of getting along. I'm growing to like these trees again. Still need to think about it, but I think in terms of how much of the garden done, I'm quite satisfied to leave it for now and come back to it in my spare time, or maybe next episode I might touch on a few little bits if I need to have a break from whatever we'll be doing, and yeah, and go on from there really. So next episode I'm planning to either do some garage work, maybe think about cars or some motorbikes, because motorbikes were very used in Batman Forever and in Batman and Robin, or we can do a few minor details to the exterior of the building, because I was having a look at exterior for the garden and I saw there's a few like patterns on some of these windows, so I might change those ever so slightly just so it looks a little bit more similar to obviously the final cut, and maybe begin doing some interior work finally, because once again it is just still a very empty house and all we've got is a chandelier. That's the best we're going to get at the moment, so of course we need to start cracking on down with this place, obviously starting with the kitchen because that's always the easiest part, I would say, and go on from there. But of course this is the most we're going to get for this episode, so I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye!